and welcome all my wonderful little geeky humans. Today I have the pleasure of introducing two great souls, Amy and Makinie. Makinie, I'm sorry. Okay. I had it right up until that point. So these are welcoming to our nurturing of the mind. We will be doing guided meditation, giving tips, and giving some information to help with the mental health that is here in Seattle. Would you guys like to do a little intro about yourselves? I don't care who goes first.
Yeah, sure. Makinie, you want to go first?
Sure. My name is Makinie Fortino. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I have been working in mental health for sometimes I lose track of time. So I just found out as of May, 11 years, which is crazy because it feels like the first year and also the 30th. And I've been both like an insider and an outsider in the mental health field. So I've, for example, have done literally in-home counseling, outpatient, but then I also have a private practice and then most recently a nonprofit. So it feels very much like I've sort of seen it all. Yeah.
That is amazing. You have. That's awesome. Amy.
Hello, my name is Amy Markwordt, and I own and operate a business in Wharton, Texas called Call Me Claire. I am a spiritual guide and a psychic medium. I do things like use tarot cards and mediumship to promote healing and kind of guide people on their spiritual journeys. That's my jam. I love the healing aspect of it. I went to school for counseling, so I utilize a lot of tools that I learned in that area for mental health and all of that. Today, I also guide meditations, and that's what I'll be doing today. Yay. Thanks for having me, Jenny.
Oh, of course. And so you guys are going to hear Amy call me Jenny. Amy and I have known each other since high school. I also know her husband. He was in one act play with me. If you guys are like, who's me? It's me. I am Jenny.
Should I call you Jennifer?
No, you should definitely not. It sounds so weird. I don't even respect my.
You what?
Like when people like my professors or like my managers, if anyone says Jennifer, it goes over my head and I end up with this blank on my face and they're just looking at me and I'm like, oh, yes.
That is me.
Me, I have that name. Makinie, I'm going to ask you first. Can you tell me like a little bit about your therapy, your LLC, what made you get into doing webinars, workshops, and just going on about like your whole career in mental health?
Oh, goodness. Where should I start? I think the populations that I serve are predominantly people of color, predominantly women, and also predominantly Black. And part of that is because there's a lot of lived experience that I have. And I felt when I first started, I was like, I want to help people who have been through things or who are experiencing things that I have been through. But I decided to stay in the field because I was like, oh my gosh, it's really hard to find Black therapists, Black female or queer therapists who have experienced racial trauma or even know what the symptoms look like. And so maybe I just stay. And if it's okay, Taryn, are you okay with sharing the screen?
Yeah, let's share. It shows it on then. I'm sorry, I'm watching the stream too.
Oh, you're watching the stream too. Okay. Yeah. So in 2020, before the pandemic, I was running a free therapy program for the state for one of the state colleges. And I absolutely loved it. But I also found after the pandemic started that there were so many people who really needed to find a therapist. And I had the private practice at the same time. People were reaching out and they're like, are you available? I'm like, I'm so sorry, I'm not. They're like, but I need a Black therapist. I need a therapist of color. And Taryn, if you can go to the B.I.PoC directory section, I'll just talk a little bit about that. So I met with a few therapists and I was like, I have some ideas about getting the information about these awesome organizations and people out there. I think a lot of directories are convoluted. When you go and you type in African American, for example, you'll get everybody who has checked the African American box not people who identify as. And so one of the things that our organization, Deconstructing the Mental Health System, sought to address was basically cutting down the time and the effort it took to find providers of color and safe providers as well. And we did that in a few different ways. So on our directory, when somebody clicks on that directory page, they're going to automatically see or read someone that they identify with, either by race or ethnicity, and or queer, trans, person of color, or LGBTQIA affirming. The second thing is we advertise for group practices as well. And so if somebody's looking for a provider, they don't have to spend a ton of time finding one if they find a group practice in their area. And the other thing, and Amy, I absolutely love what you do. So we advertise for providers as well who are cultural health and wellness providers, because even if a person of color is the one providing mental health services, it's still done in the medical model and can still cause harm. And so we want to give people who are searching for a provider the opportunity to find cultural health and wellness providers, because mental health therapy may not be the way that they need to heal. Right. And so that's one thing that we're doing. And we also have a free therapy and wellness page. Depending on funding and depending on volunteer availability, we can see people where we might not be able to. Right now, we have a wait list, but I highly encourage, if you are a person of color, or if you're a person of color who also identifies as queer or LGBTQIA, please check this page out. Please share it with your friends. I hear all the time, hey, I'm looking for a provider of color. Where can I look? This is definitely the place to go. And the other reason why I decided to start this nonprofit too was because I realized, especially in 2020, I can't do all of this by myself. I wish I could, but I would much rather consolidate as much information as possible to help people find what they're looking for quickly, than to pretend that like I have all the answers.
That is so amazing, and such a good answer too, because I do like, it is really important when having like a therapist myself, but like she also is Native American, so we get to talk about the spirituality of it. I also tell her my tarot cards, and she's like, okay, what does that mean?
Yes.
It's nice to have that familiarity, and I love it that she also admits, like, Jen, I don't have all the answers, and I don't think you're meant to either, and it's okay.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Amy.
Oh no, I was just agreeing.
Oh, just like
I was just like, nobody can have all the answers. Nobody can have all the answers.
I love too, Jen, what you're talking about is, and I experience this too when I go to therapy as well, is like not having to explain my experiences, just being in a space where I could be heard, and I can sort of start in the middle of a sentence and she knows what I'm talking about. Is that just feels really good.
Yes, yeah. Especially like, being queer, but also being in, a relationship with a hetero male. It's like, oh, well, but there's these parts. And I feel so many times that it's so hard to find a therapist that'll look into that and be like, oh, no, I totally get you. You're not a bad person. Like, right. You can have these. And yes, that's amazing. Thank you so much for all that information. That's awesome. Amy, do you want to go into a little bit about your journey?
Oh my goodness, what a wild ride. Thank you, Makinie, for sharing about yourself. So again, my name's Amy. I started on this journey. I am a recovering addict and alcoholic for the last 9 years. I think in next month, it'll be 9 years in sobriety. Thank you.
Congratulations.
It's a big deal. So I have struggled with addiction and all of that since the age of 13. And the biggest thing was, I used substances to cope, and wasn't taught anything else. I had no idea what to do with all of the emotions except to stuff them down. So that's what I did. And I used, the substances to help me deal with life. When that didn't work out, because it didn't, and it never does, I, hit bottom, and I got sober and didn't use any substances for about 6 years. And then I hit an emotional bottom, because all of those emotions that I've been stuffing for all of excuse me, all of those years started to like retch up out of my body. And I was like, what do I do? I've removed the substances, I've removed all of these things, and what do I do? So I started into therapy like hard. I threw myself into it. I threw myself into a 12-step program. And once I started learning coping skills and healthy coping skills, you know, and how to express and how to, you know, feel the feelings. And I started to do all of the healing, and then the intuitive feelings came up, and the intuition started like firing like gangbusters. And you know, I was able to trust myself and trust my intuition at that point. And it's just been a roller coaster ever since. It's been so fast paced, and I am dedicated to my growth, and I'm dedicated to the clients that come in and see me, because some people can't afford therapy, some people don't have insurance, and I feel like I'm very much kind of a middleman for that, a middle woman for, you know, people who can't maybe afford, or, you know, whatever the case might be. But any way that I can help and guide, you know, help somebody navigate is my passion and my purpose. And you know, I don't have all the answers. I'm still growing myself. And the meditation um, has really helped me become center, and help me become more focused. As someone with ADHD as well, you know, I was the person, we were talking earlier, you know, some people can't even meditate for 5 minutes. You know, they sit down and their head starts going a million thousand different directions. And that was totally me, and still can be me to this day. So if you find yourself doing that today during meditation, it's cool. Just come back to the breath, and I'll walk you through it. And but it has been a wild, wild ride. So being able to do healthy things today feels really good, feels safe and stable and secure, and helping other people do that feels really good too. So
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
yeah.
You both are just so amazing because it's amazing to know that people that we come to for answers and help also go to others for answers and help. And it's like this wonderful cycle of just wanting to make sure we care for each other and care for our surroundings and our environment. You both had touched a little bit about things in your past and then, you know, working through it now. And someone also had like a difficult past and definitely had to resurface some things recently and like going through it. What would you guys suggest as healthy coping mechanisms to get through those harder times where, say, you can't get a therapist right away, or you need to have, you're about to have a meeting, but like these feelings are coming up and you need to push them down? Can you guys give any tips?
The first thought that comes to mind, because you mentioned the desire to push it down, and I feel like I liked what Amy said, the observation that people have trouble with meditating, which is fine, but I feel like those are kind of related. The desire to push things down and the inability to slow the mind down are very much related. And I think also rooted in capitalism, which we could like go on and on about. I think one sort of theme that I see in a lot of people that I work with in the first few sessions is this sort of spiraling of I have this feeling that I don't like. I don't like that I have this feeling, so I'm going to judge it. And I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it bad. And then I'm going to feel shame about it. And then I'm going to do something with that shame, as opposed to just feeling what's coming up. And if I could recommend anything, it would be, first, if you have a pen and piece of paper, write whatever feeling comes up and be like, this is what I'm feeling. What does that mean? It doesn't have to be bad. What you do with the feeling could be bad, right? It could be bad or good, the decisions that you make, but the feeling in and of itself doesn't require judgment.
That's a really good point, because a lot of times being a people pleaser as a kid, sometimes I get those emotions and I'm like, I'm not supposed to be mad. I'm not supposed to be that person. And yeah, it makes it sometimes go even worse. Like, so if you go into an interview or if you're already spiraling, it's like, oh, okay. Now, but writing it down, I like that. At least keeping it in a pocket or something as a little reminder. That's excellent. Thank you. Amy, any
Yeah,
input?
I love that, Makinie. I love that because when I started my journey, my therapist suggested that I do the same thing. And so I carried this big old journal with me. And anytime I felt a feeling that I judged as bad or negative, I would end up journaling like 10 pages in a day. Um, so I love that. I would suggest giving so much grace. I give myself so much grace today. Um, and I don't run away from my feelings. I try really hard not to run away from my feelings, because feelings aren't always fact.
Right.
And I know that I have a lot of triggers, you know, from coming from dysfunction and coming from trauma and things of that nature. I have triggers. The biggest thing for me is to be aware of those triggers and, okay, I'm feeling triggered. I'm feeling the icky, right? Can I name it? Can I name the emotion that I'm feeling? And if so, can I speak it out? It helps me a lot to use that throat chakra and speak it out. When I do, it takes a lot of the power away from it. The journaling, I still journal. I don't, you know, I'm not a big journaling person today, but when I get in the thick of it and I'm starting that spiral, I've got to get that journal out, and get it out of here and put it somewhere else. But giving myself a lot of grace, looking at what's triggering me, looking at the emotion and not running away from it, and whatever the emotion is, like just acknowledging it and kind of, you know, putting skin to skin and I'm okay. There is not a cougar. Okay. There's not a cougar chasing me unless
There's
you're in
context to
Seattle.
that.
Apparently, there's cougars on the loose in
That was
Seattle.
great.
Okay.
Amy's spiritual guidance today is a cougar.
Yeah, yeah.
Cougar
That's the
Amy.
spirit animal for the week.
Yeah.
But there's not a cougar chasing me. I'm safe. I am okay. And just kind of like bringing myself back down from that and giving myself grace and ease. So that's what I would say.
They're both great because that is like when you come from trauma or you have the past, your automatic feeling is to run away as fast as you can. And sometimes you don't even know you're running until you stop and you're like, wait, so I'm running. I need to address this.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know
I'm
what?
reacting or
Yeah.
That's the thing, is the reaction. That's what I do not want to do today. I want to respond in a healthy way. So being an objective observer for me today is so important, but not making any rash decisions until I know what exactly is going on within me. So like that would be my old response, is to react right away. Oh my gosh, I have a thing. I need to take action. I need to do something because these emotions are motivating. Gotta do something. I gotta run for my life or whatever. So yeah, being aware of that too. No rash decisions until I am calm, cool, and collected.
I remember those rash decisions. My poor hair. I think it's
Yeah, for real.
like, we took up the blunt of most of my rash decisions. Like, okay, not working. I'm just gonna shave my head today. Cool. I'm gonna dye it pink. All right, everything's working great. I'm fine.
Yeah, same. I used to do the same.
Yeah. What do y'all think is like one of the major deterrents of wanting to get or seek mental health? I mean, I know my background is like my father was Native and Hispanic, my mom was white and Hispanic. They didn't really come from money. So there was times as a little girl, like I was threatened, like, if you don't behave, Jenny, we're gonna send you to therapy. And I'm like, okay. So there was this idea in my head, like, we don't go to therapy, we don't go to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until getting out of high school and like leaving that I realized like, oh no, we should totally go to therapy. In fact, we might just need to sit with that for a while. So what are some of the ones that come across you guys in your when you're working with people, or you find like while you're doing research or studying, like what are some of the big hurdles that a lot of people have to jump through?
Do you want to go first, Amy, or?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
I find that I know in my experience, um, fear of judgment from others. Oh, she must be the C word. She must be crazy, or whatever the case might be. Any kind of judgment from others because I was a people pleaser. I was afraid of, oh, I don't want to rock the boat. That comes from, all of the childhood stuff. But so judgment from others, family, friends, society, whatever the case might be. Um, Also, not knowing that there are options. I think that's such a huge issue is people don't know that there are options. It's, well, I don't have insurance, so I can't afford it, and that's it. And then there's no education on it. And I feel like therapy and it's just now coming around, for the last few years. It's becoming a hot topic. And oh, you don't go to therapy? Oh, you're
Right, like what's wrong with you? Everyone goes.
yeah, everybody's going to therapy. And
I got my therapist.
yeah, I've got a therapist. Like, but lack of education around it, and also the block, like, I can't afford it. Just lack of education around it, kind of to encompass the whole thing. That's what I think are the biggest.
I agree. And I'll go ahead and I'll add like the context of race. Jen, you were asking earlier about like some of the trainings I've done, and one training that I did very recently was uncovering racism in mental health, and part of that was doing a history lesson of basically some of the first diagnoses in the United States, and a couple of the first ones had to do with the diagnosis of the experience of being enslaved and how a slave was supposed to behave versus what they were actually doing. Most slaves were trying to get free, right? So a lot of the psychiatrists and psychologists at the time were basically saying there's something wrong with somebody who wants to be freed from slavery. And where I'm going with this is that fear that came from this diagnosis and the mistreatment as a result of mental health professionals viewing Black people as uneducated, ungrateful, inherently bad, that ingrained belief of mental health professionals and how they subsequently treated Black people has today, Amy is saying, like, we're seeing an undoing of that. Absolutely. But part of that is professionals like myself being like, no, we're safe now. We're trying really hard not to be that way. A lot of us are very like anti-medical model actively. So fear of what the experience of asking a mental health or medical professional for help would result in. I remember when I was little, my mom would tell me, to where my family's from the Caribbean, and she would say, oh yeah, those hospitals, a lot of our family members, when they got older, they would go in and they wouldn't come out. And I'm like, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of shocking that like all three of her kids went on to like study mental health in different ways. But yeah, like I remember being raised sort of socialized as like, we'll keep it in the family. We will figure this out as a family, whether it's like absolutely terrible or works out. We don't have to tell anybody, because if we tell somebody, it could be really bad. So I think so that's a long answer, but I think that there is basically a fear of mental health professionals because of the actual harm that's been done. And of course, I agree with both of you. There's the barrier of insurance and affordability, and just the access to the knowledge of all the options out there. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. You like blew my mind, because I'm just thinking of what you mentioned with like the history and how there are doctors actually telling slaves like, you should be grateful for this. And that mindset is so I'm sorry. I'm just like,
It's messed up.
people are messed up.
And worse, they would give the diagnoses, and then they would tell the slave owners, like, just treat them worse, and then they'll get better. Yeah. So there's a whole thing. There's a whole thing with that, and I think to some extent, society still has attempted to maintain social order in that way. If we treat poor people, if we treat homeless people, if we treat survivors, if we treat Black people worse, queer people worse, they'll get in line and behave the way they should.
Yeah. I mean, that also is like, it's just really, wow. Like, I don't have words for that. Like, I just wish that we would learn from that. But like you said, there is still parts of that even around today. Like, there are still parts of people saying, oh, well, no, you shouldn't. You're fine. Like, you shouldn't talk about that. Or, oh, don't talk about that because it makes people uncomfortable, even if you mention it. And I do believe, like, I feel that people can talk about their trauma and their mental health in a very just matter of fact way. Like, like, we've worked through it. I have complex PTSD. Like, I go through this stuff all the time. If me talking about it brings someone else out and, like, oh, I have these things too, that makes me feel better, because I didn't have any tools. And even when I got diagnosed, I was like, what does that mean? Is it like a first club? Is it like, do I get like my information? And unfortunately, like, what I have learned, and I think that it's interesting with the mental health system, is that sometimes being in a category doesn't always help either. And you can tell me, like, oh, you have complex PTSD, but it's not recognized. So we're going to put you under this PTSD umbrella. And it's like, but it's not the same thing. And then while you're at it, we're going to put you under this under umbrella. And I'm like, but that's not it either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Amy.
I think that's kind of to plug into that. You were talking about how it's important for you to have support from other people who've been through the same thing, and also I believe you also spoke on that. The support systems are so freaking important. And that's what I try to do. I also put on spiritual women's retreats, and I host these paranormal weekends, and the thing behind it is, if we can get some like-minded folks together, if we can get people together that are not only like-minded but have been through some of the same things, it promotes health and wellness. It promotes, hey, oh, you're a recovering addict and alcoholic too, or you are an inactive addiction. Let me tell you about my experience, strength, and hope. Let me tell you, how I moved through this. Let me tell you how I found a support system, or how I dealt with all my baloney, whatever the case might be. But having support, having people to talk with, human connection, I believe, is the biggest thing that humans need, and the least thing that we get, like, for lack of a better way to say it. We get so little human connection, really authentic, vulnerable human connection, unconditional love, no strings attached, and all of that. And that's what people are looking for today. That's what people are craving and really needing. So that's also just a huge purpose of mine and passion of mine, is creating community for people to come together and getting freaking loved on,
I love that. I feel, I'm generalizing, but American society in general has been, at least for the last few centuries, very like individualist, very pull yourself up by the bootstraps, which is like, that's the antithesis of the way most people operate. And so I think part of what's also happened is people tried to do things on their own and found that it was a terrible experience. And so I really have, like Jen, you mentioned, like, us just talking about this, talking about seeing therapists, talking about having mental health diagnoses is helping other people. And Amy, absolutely. I think Like part of the work that I do is helping people find their own communities. If you can't find it, you build it. I will teach you how to build one. Just so you're not doing this on your own, and just so you don't feel like you have to have this diagnoses, this pathologized way of looking at things by yourself. You absolutely don't. And the diagnoses, I think, between you and me, sometimes just makes the mental health professionals feel better. It doesn't really do much for the client. That's just me.
Humans love boxes.
Yeah, boxes are.
We love boxes and labels.
And it can be useful, but I do think most people thrive when they find community, regardless of what diagnosis they have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We were talking earlier about how, you know, in Seattle, like January through February was like the dark months, and I was kind of oozing in between that caterpillar and butterfly effect. Like I was just sitting on my couch like Slimer eating pizza. So yeah, like boxes don't really help me. Even when I am put together, it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Good part of that too is like, and I'm also going to generalize here, but I think most of America spends a lot of time in a box. You're growing up in like a small, super conservative Texas town. I grew up in a box. My brother was like a football star. My little brother was a football star. And then there's me, the wacky, crazy, like, what is Jen? And so it was a lot of things I had to unbox when I got here, like in Austin, and then like later in life to Seattle, because there is too many boxes. They're just there. And I felt like I went from one box to another box to just realize like, hey, this is something you are doing for yourself. So maybe you should have a more individualized approach while getting coached by someone that knows what they're talking about.
Yeah. I have to know who I am before I can share it with you.
Yeah,
You know, before
exactly.
I can find my community. That was the biggest thing. You know, I didn't trust myself. I didn't know who I was. And that's where the therapy really came in and helped me. And I started asking the questions to myself, you know, golly, I always pass up. My husband would ask me, what do you want to eat? Oh, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. You know, whatever, go wherever you want to go. Truth is, I didn't have any clue where I wanted to eat, and I wouldn't ask myself. It's just easier to pass the buck, you know, to please somebody else or whatever. When I've really started looking and asking myself the questions, who are you? What do you like, Amy? You know, what do I believe in? Not the things that were indoctrinated into me. What do I believe in? And what do I believe about myself? Not what I've been told from all these other jamokes, you know. And when I started doing that, you know, then I started finding my people. I started finding like-minded folks and started growing the community that I have.
Oh man, you just spoke about something that like really stood out to me. I think a lot of us like cling to the communities that we're socialized into, and we're like, if I step outside of this box, I'm not going to be loved, I'm not going to be appreciated, I'm not going to be seen, I'll just stay in this box. And when we do find a way, maybe through therapy, maybe through coaching, of like unlearning, undoing, those people fall away, and we just draw in the people that really need to be around us, that we need to be around. And I just want to reflect that that process of, so in mental health, what we call it differentiation, like who am I, what do I think, how do I feel, what do I need in this moment, like all of that stuff. I absolutely love hearing you talk about that. And yeah, there's just some beautiful things that happen once a person is like, okay, I know who I am now.
Yes.
I want you guys to know the chat in Twitch are cheering you guys on, loving everything, cheering, crying, saying thank you for educating us, because it is. This is, you know, this month we were doing the whole nurturing of the mind, from different crafts to video games. And you know, this is also, it's really amazing that GeekGirlCon has this platform in order to create this, you know, to create this community, create this panel, create this environment. But I'm so excited, you guys. Thank you for educating and being here. I love it. I'm so giddy. It's gonna go great. Well, we have about 15 minutes left. Amy, did you want to do y'all want to do like final tips on relaxation or deep breaths or techniques, and then we can go into the meditation?
Not a tip for meditation per se, but this is kind of like an anxiety management or like a coping skill tool, just a phrase that you can ask yourself. And this is totally going off of what Amy was just talking about. if you are feeling whatever, I was going to name some feelings, but whatever you're feeling, if you stop and you say, what do I need in this moment? What can I give to myself in this moment? It first of all, like that sort of phrase can lead to so many things, but maybe you need water, maybe you need to take a break, maybe you need to call out sick, right? But you can only answer that question if you ask it first. And so if you just start with, what do I need in this moment? It can really, yeah, it's a great anxiety management tool. Just want to throw that out there.
No,
I
that's a good
love
one.
I
I'm gonna
love
start
that.
that tomorrow.
It is. It causes a ripple effect. I love that. So for me, meditation and breath work is the most underutilized tool that we have, breath work especially. When we grow up in dysfunctional households, when we, a lot of us tend to, I don't know, you might resonate with this, but I would hold my breath. Not like a temper tantrum or anything like some kids like, you know, not like that, but I wouldn't even know that I was holding my breath. And even still to this day, when I experience anxiety, I catch myself holding my breath. But if we will just breathe into our diaphragm is the place right underneath our ribs. It is a tightness in the stomach. Yeah, absolutely. If we will expand our diaphragm and hold it at the top of the breath and then release it out through the mouth, immediately there's a shift in the body. And if we will practice this breath work in through the nose, holding it just for a second at the top of the breath and releasing out through the mouth, breathing into that diaphragm always, I mean, it's a self-regulating coping skill that is so underutilized. But if you're ready, I'll go ahead and start, Jenny.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay, cool. So today's meditation is about self-love. I figured that was appropriate for this talk. So if you feel called, I invite you to go ahead and close your eyes, start breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Sometimes I like to put my right hand skin to skin on my chest and my heart center. And I like to put my left hand on my diaphragm just so I can kind of start to get centered and breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Maybe you can feel your heartbeat and concentrate on your heart center. And just take these breaths at your own pace, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And with each out breath, I ask that you start to sink into the space that you're occupying, whether you're lying down, sitting up in a chair. Just be with your body. And you can imagine all of the stress just coming off of your shoulders as you take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Allow your shoulders to maybe start coming out of your ears. Maybe this is the first time you've taken deep breaths today. That's okay. Just come back to your body. I want you to imagine a warm and loving light surrounding you. This is the light of self-love that's always within you. And visualize this light growing brighter and stronger with each in-breath. And as you continue to breathe deeply, I ask you to focus on any negative self-talk or doubts you may be having. I just want you to acknowledge these thoughts, but don't dwell on them. Just allow them to pass by like clouds in the sky. In through the nose, and out through the mouth. And I'd like for you to repeat the following affirmations to yourself. I am worthy of love and acceptance, just as I am. I am deserving of happiness and joy. I am enough, just as I am. And continue to breathe deeply in through the nose and out through the mouth. And visualize that light of self-love surrounding you. Imagine this light filling your body with warmth and positivity. And we're going to just kind of start to spread that love as you think of someone who loves you unconditionally. It could be a family member, friend, or even a pet. I ask you to visualize their love and support filling you up. And if you're able, maybe you even send them some love and support. As you continue to breathe deeply, I invite you to repeat the following affirmation. I am loved and supported by those around me. And take a moment to send gratitude to those who love and support you. Imagine this gratitude flowing out of you and into the world around you. Finally, take one last deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the present moment. And if you feel called, you can journal about your experience, how you felt during the meditation, any thoughts you might have had that you recognize.
I feel so much better. It's been a minute since I actually was breathing, I realized.
Right?
Yeah.
Breathing, the most underutilized tool that us humans have.
Pat is giving lots of praise and thanks.
Yeah.
But really, it is. 'Cause, yeah, like y'all said, it's the stomach, and I always catch it right here in the back of my throat. And then I'm like, wait, you're holding your breath. Talk.
Mhm.
Breathe.
Yeah.
It's good. Well, I want you guys to give all the shout outs to your businesses, to yourselves, stream. Let us know where we can find you, how we can get appointments, how we can book you, anything and everything, because y'all are just amazing. And I want everything for you. You want to go first?
Oh, did you say Amy or Makinie?
Or Bikini, sorry.
Oh, yeah, sure. Gosh, so I really want to shout out to DMHS. At this time, because I'm managing it, I'm kind of full, but there's like over 250 mental health providers that you can find if you go to dmhsus.org. We are always, if it's okay, soliciting donations, because that goes to like directly to mental health services as well, through our free therapy and wellness program. One thing that I would say is, and I'm sure that you saw this too, there was a lot of enthusiasm and outpouring of support for people of color in 2020 that kind of just sort of trickled out. So I would say if you do decide to donate, please do so like on a monthly basis, even if it's like $5, $10, because it shows that, I mean, racial trauma isn't going anywhere. Feelings of isolation as a person of color or as a queer person aren't going anywhere, especially right now. So yes, we would absolutely love if you put our directory on your site, if you decide to donate, if you share the directory with somebody that you think could benefit from seeing it. I will leave it at that. Thank you so much. This has been awesome. And like, what a great way to like kind of like wind down from the conversation too, Amy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So like I mentioned earlier, my business name is Call Me Claire. I work pretty much on social media. So the best way to contact me is over Facebook Messenger. I got banned from TikTok, y'all. I, for posting about like healthy ways to deal with anger. But so you can't find me on TikTok anymore, but I am on Facebook Messenger and Instagram. So Facebook is just Call Me Claire. And then Instagram is at Claire, or I'm sorry, at call.me.claire. And Claire is no E, Clair. So that's where you can contact me. My information is on both sites.
Yay. Well, thank you guys so much. This was so good. And what a great, like, right before Pride, right before so many big mental health strikes. Like, this is, oh, thank y'all so much for being on today. Everybody, I'm Jfun. This was Nurturing the Mind with some very amazing minds. Please feel free to click on the link shown in chat. Thursday, we have our own Tina and Taryn playing Unpacking, which kind of goes with this whole talk. Just
Cool.
unpacked. And they'll be playing Thursday at Twitch TV, GeekGirlCon, 7 p.m. So check them out. And I believe that we will be rating our own Joe Meeples if he's still online. Maybe. Unpacking. What is it just a game about unpacking? Because that kind of sounds fun too. Yep. Rating Meeples. Here we go. So everybody stay here and make sure you click on everything. It was nice seeing y'all. Bye.
Thank you, Jenny.
Bye. Thank you.